Hi, I'm Risa. I'm a VR researcher at Zaha Hadid Architects. So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to this conference, and hopefully I can share some exciting contents today. So today I would like to go through 4 topics. First, I'll introduce what Zaha Hadid Architects do in generally. Secondly, we'll explain what has triggered us into mixed reality technology by giving some examples of Zaha Hadid early drawings. The third chapter will talk about how architects would benefit from mixed reality technology by looking at some authentic concept of architectural tools and representation method. Lastly, I'll go through what kind of mixed reality projects we do as a VR group. So Zaha Hadid Architects was founded in 1980 by Zaha Hadid and her architectural partner, Patrick Schumacher. The office consists of architectural design clusters and also in-house research groups, which has multiple disciplines, including, of course, architects, designers, building information modeling teams, code, so programmers. We have people who develop VR content, and also spatial analytics. So the internal research groups build algorithms and tools for form generation, spatial analytics, etc., and simulation also. So these research outcome and knowledge have been implemented with architectural design clusters. In the last 40 years of history, the office has successfully completed over 1,000 projects, including all scale factors from product design to master plan design. And we have more than 400 people working from 55 different nationalities. So we do transport project, cultural project, which is sustainable, cultural project, including different types of programs. We're interested in forms. We do office projects, master plan project. We're also interested in interior design to exhibition design, exhibition content design, installation, projection mapping. We like fashion, product design, and furniture. So basically we do. We are interested in everything. We like to collaborate with people. So yeah, that's what we do. And so styles are very important in architectural industry, and especially we think we have some distinctive style called parametricism. So parametricism is a modern architecture style. The term was created by Patrick Schumacher, and the style uses computational and algorithmic approaches in order to arrange spaces, programs, and energy. So the idea is to formulate data and the information-driven cultural creations. So the style has obviously helped the company a lot to push the learning curves of architects in the office and to highlight and analyze the existing social discourses and sensitivities, and to simulate client and society patternization using cutting-edge technology. So mixed reality is not the exception. So Zaha has presented her ideas successfully by producing large-scale paintings. The paintings invited her client, users, and designers to the world of her architectural perspectives. In her early paintings, she drew many perspective drawings on one large canvas to highlight the relationship between architectural spaces and the viewers. These drawing techniques of involving multiple viewpoint perspectives are often used in her early paintings. So these offer a sequence of standpoints, zoomed in viewpoints, etc. So these representation styles kind of eliminate the singular fixed viewer position and helps to produce dynamic display of multiple perspectives, which remind us of walkthrough experience in a free roaming VR space. And here are some examples. We exhibited in St. Bartlett Museum in London. And for instance, color coding, transparency, line strokes, depths of contrast of shadows, memorable figures, adaptive distortion, spatial immersion, explosion. So this kind of expression is our core inspiration and interest. So these techniques create a complex system, a mechanism, out of the individually notable elements or their characteristics in spaces or forms. So both Zaha's early paintings and Patrick's parametricism approached rationality of abstraction in design to regenerate spaces, appreciating the existing environment, whether it is urban scale, site, environment, energy, or social activities. So that's why we do all sectors and all scale projects. And we think VR can be used for a great communication tool. For example, in this virtual reality experience, we try to put the painting contents into VR so that you can really see that the landscape trying to become an elemental object, and then how we can get inspiration from these. So this is calculated algorithmically, and also we kind of make an order and choreograph of these movements. And we think architecture is multidisciplinary tool to understand the city and also people. So architectural tool here also important for us because it is a medium to study designers' thoughts and ideas. Using tools can be more hands-on approach or skill around software, hardware, so we can call tools and skills also as a design discipline. So these outputs are shared internally, externally, and the two outputs are often used as a communication tools between architects and their clients and collaborators to review the project design development. The collaborators include structural engineers, mechanical, electric, and plumbing engineers, lighting, acoustic design, etc. So we can say each architectural project is very unique, so full of characteristics. The field of architecture is multidisciplinary industry. So since we have many collaborators across diverse professions with multiple tools applied to each project, the industry still prefers to take step-by-step design development approach in a linear process. This means we need to assume time-lapse and allowance for a project buffer time. Especially in early stages, we involve collaborators from the beginning, but also in a way, they think waiting time until architectural design has evolved to a certain proposal stage. So this also leads task distribution within the project, and this makes project manager or project participant difficult to see the project itself holistically. So internally, main software we use is Maya and Rhino 3D, and we create output, include different types of output, such as floor plans, which is a line drawings, physical model, and quick rendering, simulation, panelization, photorealistic rendering using game engines. We also make one-to-one prototype physically, testing materiality, and then think of ergonomic access and if the size and scale is correct for users. And then architects being at the site is also important, just to show our care of the whole process. So architects in a way need to understand the project holistically, and they also need to coordinate all the collaborators together. So this is how we come to interested in the multiplayer in VR, which I will go through in a bit. Okay, so Zaha Hadid Virtual Reality Group is founded in 2014. And the group has worked for 360 and real-time projects over the last 5 years. And we developed over 40 360 projects so far, and 10 real-time projects, and 1 immersive modeling project, and one live pilot project for workflow development. And we like to use a bunch of different types of headsets because we have our clients vary, so depending on how we want to present to who is very important. We use good graphic cards, RTX, with high-spec PC. We have this system called mobile workstation so that all the colleagues can access to VR technology inside the office. And we regularly hold talk events around mixed reality technology, inviting external academics and also professionals across industries. So we aim not to just remain in the architecture industry, but also very open for collaborations. So in regards to our VR content development workflow, our workflow work pipeline is around the Office native software, which is Maya and Rhino 3D. So we use Unreal Engine to develop VR content, and the 2D output will be projected either on a monitor screen or iPad, iPhone or Android, and 3D will be head-mounted display. So obviously immersive contents are more interesting, I think. So I'll quickly go through the 360 part. So we do all of this in-house and regularly having a meeting with project teams to create a narrative. So and both interior and exterior project can be experienced in one application without skipping different perspectives. We also have an app that we developed for multi-viewers so that the presenter can be easily navigate client and collaborators in a presentation. Okay. So let's go through the immersive content. So we do 3 different types of immersive contents. First is commercial visualization. Second is experiential, and third is research and development. So this project is Haida Aliyev Center real-time visualization. So this is all about the optimization of the model. So what we use, this is not photo, but photorealistic render or shortcut. So optimization as in we use the actual 3D model that was used for manufacturing process, which is not the same as how normally the model used in the gaming industry. So there's a lot of optimization. Okay, so we're quite amazed by like how work pipeline are different from traditional gaming industry, but architects also try to merge into, kind of try to grow the and then change the workflow. We find it quite fascinating and excited about it. And here's some example of like a before and after RTX. You can little bit see the difference in the reflection. Okay, here's another example of the Dungeon Bridge project. This was completed in 2012. We put it into VR in 2015 and was exhibited at Taiwan. So Project Correl is an interactive and collaborative sculpting experience in multi-presence virtual reality environment. So this VR experience was exhibited as part of Zaha Hadid Design as a second nature exhibition at the Museum of Mexico in Mexico City. The exhibition ran for 2 months. The sculpture growth was monitored over the time. During the 2 months exhibition time, 2,500 people were immersed to this place to assemble total number of 20,000 components within the virtual environment. The scale of each component is range in between 50 centimeters to 50 meters. So we wanted to explore both human scale and the urban scale at the same time inside VR. And the overall play area was about 30 by 30 kilometers. Component and player information were updated in real time via cloud system. So this includes location, rotation, scale, and player names. And we had 1 server and 4 clients set up with a static network environment. So we do all the IT things as well, which is painful. Narrative was also studied for tutorial sessions. So how we guide users to use controllers is also important because not everybody has used VR before. And here is some visuals that we made. And this is animation for what we actually made. So this is 2 yellow parts as the activated users. So you can see it's a multiplayer. We have an ugly avatar with a belly button. And then the idea is placing and scaling the components. And here's the navigation system. So we also think about architecture as space and how can we actually build for VR technology instead of just importing architectural asset into VR. So there is a huge difference of that. So this, you can see the components number on the right, which is only 165, but the result was 25,000. Okay, I think I'll go to the next slide. And then we 3D printed the model. So we also think about the physicality from virtuality. And here's another example of framework of kind of space for data visualization. So we think we're really interested in how users would feel inside VR. So if you imagine each bubble contains data, and then data kind of comes to you instead of you follow the traditional way of interaction. So we also do UI. And this is another example of how we think of space data spatially. So you have an immersive space that you can grab kind of cubes of data. You can go into the data, and there is another level and another architectural space So these shows real-time trading data, and you have personal data next to it. You can make a phone call, and these highlighted text is updated real time. So it's a presentation platform for trading people. And then lastly, we would like to go through our idea of, So we believe in an agreement-based collaboration, create one way to organize spaces, events, programs, in order to communicate with multiple beings inside VR space. So something we don't want to happen is having different scales of people at the same time as in a space, because it's horrible to communicate in such a situation. So imagine your client is an ant scale, and then yourself is a larger scale. It's a horrible experience, so something we want to make order. So I would want to wrap up this presentation by showing this multiplayer project we are working on now. So we invented a really simple prototype for our collaborators. So it's a pilot project. And so the time and light is connected in some position also. And so basically the UI has a different entry of each collaborator, such as lighting designer, structural designer, and MEP, which is mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers. So we have different tabs for each profession, so that the communication is much easier in this way. And as I showed you earlier, the paintings was the way of organizing this complex information. We kind of finding out the way to stylize architectural knowledge for VR using VR technology. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Risa.
Thank you.
Wow, there was a lot of slides with a lot of very diverse input. And would like to ask you right away to please have the seat in the middle, because I will sit on the other side, and I will also would like to ask our second guest to be seated, so I can introduce him before we then get into a little chat. Our second guest has a technical background, but also focus on business and management in that technical background. He worked as an IT manager for Bayer Pharma here in Berlin. And he talked to a friend about the problems to visualizing their plans in architecture. And that led him to start his own company, All VR, in Berlin. And what they're doing is a platform for virtual real-time communication to enhance the whole communication while planning a project. So quite different approach from what we've just seen. So please welcome Boris Goldshteyn here. And Boris, maybe we start off by just giving you a few sentences or words to explain what are you doing with All VR? And
thank you for the invitation. First of all, astonishing things and astonishing content, of course. But like you just mentioned, we have a different approach, because it was about more visualization, about the feeling of architecture, feeling of style, about to try to understand the architecture for clients. We have a different approach because we go more technical. We try to speed up the whole planning process during the planning and then later on the construction. Basically, like, we are from Berlin, we know about the story about the Berlin airport, and it's always a story of how to collaborate better, because complex projects, they have so many collaborators, and so many collaborators needs to have different sources of planning data. They have different approaches to plan things, and basically the collaboration we know usually from the design tech industry, they are not applied to the well, I would say conservative way of construction and engineering. And this is why we use our platform, our collaboration platform, and the communication platform with this VR interface in order to, well, be more flexible, be more real time. So don't we create these high level visualizations, but we connect more or less our data as a kind of data hub with the data of the planners of a different planner in order to see clashes during the planning. It means like if there are mistakes and the planning goes day by day. So if there are mistakes in the planning, with our application, it's possible to visualize them, possible to see them, and more or less communicate them to the different planner. So it's a kind of support tool for the planning itself.
Okay, so it doesn't really have to look really shiny and fancy. It's more about the pragmatism, the value add in, well, the helping big architecture projects not to crash like the Berlin airport. By the way, is that the reason why you started your company in Berlin?
No, but it's a good example. It's like there are a lot of examples in Germany actually, and it's a good example to everybody to understand why and how, why such kind of tools needed actually, and why the complex are such, or why the project are such complex.
So it really, because starting a company in the US or so is a lot easier with a lot more pragmatic market approach to really grow. Yeah, why in the hell do that in complicated Germany? But in this case, complicated Germany actually helps you because it is so complicated, or?
Well, I think this is not just about Germany. I guess all construction projects, and here is like we have an architect. They are all very complex, and now it's more. We are not talking about these small houses, these tiny houses like for families. But when you just saw the pictures and you saw the different styles and we are not talking about just architecture, because a construction project consists of so many different parts. There are so many parties involved into the whole planning process. They are like not just the engineers, but there are so many, when you talk about the facade, like how it looks outside, there are interior designers, there are so many parties, and usually the parties, they don't really know what the other party is doing. And when they meet in order to try to collaborate, it's a mess. And in order to make it more automatized and to make it more connected to data, to their real data, so that they can work on a daily basis. It's not just like that you see this astonishing view, but you really use this tool day by day in order to support it during the change management process. So because it's a change management process, if you want to shift the wall or you want to change the window, like in an easy way to understand, but it's way more complex when you have all the pipes which are connected to wires, which are connected to switches, which are connected to walls, and you need to understand how this whole thing is moved. And when one wall is just moved, all the components which are applied to this wall needs to be moved as well, or needs to be checked as well. And this whole checking thing, you need an application where collaborators can, first of all, visually see the mistakes, but on the other hand, like automatically discuss how to solve the problem visually, and then connect it to your original data, your source data, so that you can change your source data, and everything is changed during the process in VR as well.
Okay, from Risa, we have just heard that you are using basically the tools that also the media industry uses to create VR. You use Maya, Rhino, Unreal. You're probably starting from a different basis of tools. It sounds more like, I don't know, a CAD system or so that you then extend into virtual reality, or how
exactly.
Do you do that?
We have a link to each component in the CAD tool. So basically, we of course, it could be done also with SketchUp, with Maya, but these are more visual things. Usually the planners, and when we talk about Germany, the planners use different tools. They're Allplan, they're Vectorworks, they're different tools because they're really planning tools, I would say. It's not just like creating 3D content, it's really to plan, because it's a little bit different than just creating the 3D content. But of course, they use 3D content import into their planning tools as well. And one example was Revit, for example, but there are other tools. And when we look into Germany, you have so big variation of different CAD tools, and connect them to see and how the data is connected, and this is what's getting interesting, because this is where you try to understand that this 3D object is a wall, and this 3D object is a pipe, and you need this information in order to clash it, or in order to understand the clash itself. It's not just visual clash, it's also a hard clash, so that this information is needed. And this information we transform directly also in our tool, also in the VR environment, so that all the construction information which is needed can be viewed and can be visited in this virtual environment as well.
Okay, so the standard case in a complex project is that all the different like the guys who do the water pipes, the electricity or so on, may use one of these different CAD systems. So you have a number of planning systems that you, first of all, can't really interconnect. So that's what you're, first of all, starting to do, to then combine that information and visualizing it in 3D, so I can then walk through the building. And then how do I have to imagine that? What do I really see? I mean, I can imagine, okay, you can look through the wall and see where the wiring is going. And what other examples would I detect by looking at things in 3D rather than on a plan in a CAD system?
Well, usually when you use VR, you can really explore the space itself. It's not just a hard clash. There could be examples like walking up the stairs and there's a stair missing, or you can hit your head on the top, or something which you can't see on the plan, which you even can't see on a CAD tool. For example, there's built a pipe, and when you would like to walk, the pipe is too low. It's hanging too low, or the light planning, which is done by the light planners itself, so all the interior things, and it's hanging too low for your body, or for human body itself. And this you can explore in the VR itself, and you see this clashes, and it's clashing, and you need to solve it as well, and you need to solve it not just by yourself, but because when you just walk with the customer and the customer sees it, it's cool, it's of course one use case as well, but how to solve this issue, how to integrate the light planner, or how to integrate the plumber who created the wrong component or put the component in the wrong position, so that he understands what needs to be done in a different way. And we just saw this collaboration as well in your case, so that you have a kind of Skype on the 3D model. So several people who are sitting in their office, they can easily join real time in our application, and they can talk about these different things and different type or different levels of clashes, a hard clash or a soft clash, where you just can't walk through the opening in the wall because it's just too small for a human body, and this you can really apply or like assign to the responsible party, and the responsible party will get the notification in their original software, so that please, here is the wrong thing, and we just discussed how to solve it, please solve it, and then you have this continuous agile change management process.
Okay, and you said it's a real-time tool, so I mean, by the time I visualize it in VR, I could then and collaborate with, I don't know, different offices of planners in different cities, and they're including, it's like, hey, you electricity guys, can you change that, and can we have a look at it again in 5 minutes? So it really works real time?
Yeah, for now you need some moments more, because
Okay.
like when you change something and you say, I want to change, I need to push it again, and it goes to the cloud, and then it will be again updated in this real-time environment, but we link it more or less to the original data, so that it can be pushed real-time, or it will be pushed real-time in the next year, because we would try to we try to shorten the process of real-time pushing data.
That's a huge value add. Let me switch my look to the audience, because of course we're also, as in every session, open for questions. I already see Alina has the microphone. I already saw a hand rising, so we have our first question.
Thank you very much. I have a question to Risa. It was very interesting how you showed us how you do architectural research within VR, within immersive spaces. I would be very interested in how far the work of your group is also informing the workflow of especially the creative process of physical construction sites or of physical buildings outside of VR. You showed us 3D visualizations, how they change. Of course, I guess this is maybe interesting for also client contact, but how does it inform the creative process? So are you involved within the planning of physical buildings as well, and in which stage, and how does it change the idea of the whole workflow?
So we have one immersive modeling project which we just completed 2 months ago. So at the moment we are only using VR for creative process for small scale, because we want to make it fast, make it work with small scale, and then make it big building scale. So at the moment we have this sound lounge project. We immersively model it using collaborating with a company called MindDesk VR. I don't know if you heard of it, but it's still Rhinoceros 3D software plugin for VR. So basically we model everything immersively first, and then output that into two-dimensional drawing. So it's not intuitive fully, but we still have one step forward, that we start modeling in one-to-one scale instead of looking at the screen and then clicking mouses. And it's much more like we feel ergonomically like be part of the space we design as well. So yeah, so that's first step and where we are at the moment, and hopefully we can take it a bit further.
No more questions at the moment, and I have another one. Working with 3D environments. I mean, user interfaces, user experience, and all the hassles connected to that are always a big problem, because as soon as we're all used to looking at these two-dimensional frames. Yeah, it's a great stage, and we're used to working with, the digital as a parallel world always appearing in that window, and all of a sudden we liberate it from the screen and are working with 3D. There's no file print menu up in the upper left corner of the screen. What are the experiences that, especially, in your case, it's very pragmatic. It doesn't. Maybe from it's not that shiny and perfectly from a UX perspective engineered. It needs to be pragmatic. What experiences do you make with the users that you have that are planners that also maybe are not used to working in 3D environments? Is it easy for them to navigate through that, or do they have problems?
Well, of course, the construction and industry is, I would say, very conservative, and they are starting their journey towards the whole new possibilities we have now. And I guess when you design such kind of software, when you design this kind of things you do, you just showed different ways of interacting. So you always test which kind of interactions are possible to make it easy for the user itself. And it's, I guess, developing this whole thing, it's very user driven. So we work with general contractors, we work with the old economy, I would say, in order to understand how they use it before the tools, to make the transition for them easier to such kind of tools like VR, like the whole 3D environment, in order so that they can, it's like simplifying the whole thing to make it easy for them be open for new technology and to use this.
Okay, and Risa, same question to you. You're working on a wide range of VR, not only visualization, but we've also seen a lot of looking rather experimental things, and where you also, it looks like you're doing a lot of just trying out and so on as well. Do you have something like a user experience lab or wherever where you try out these things, or how do you handle that?
So we think VR is technology, but also a tool. So we want to understand what architecture is using VR technology, so which is a little bit different approach from let's find out what we can do with VR. So it's same as how we started to use Maya. We wanted to do something super abstract in architecture, like beyond the structure, gravity, In order to do so, we needed to go for low polygon modeling using the technology so that we can use that specific technique into manufacturing process. So we're kind of going back to the first place and using the VR as a workflow development. And then regarding the user, understanding the user cases, I think we use different tools to understand, filter through, understand what the space is, and then how we can use the spatial quality into the user interface. So it's really necessary for us to understand what technology is available first, so that we can really make it ours, and then output will be super personalized for the user.
Okay.
So I hope that question.
Yeah, and
answered the
besides
questions.
these great visualizations that you make rather for the customer than in the planning stages for those that have to build the whole thing, are you also addressing things like Boris is addressing with his software during the planning stages?
Yes, we are trying to do it in-house. And obviously, we can require more like specific skills, but we believe like architects knows about architecture the most, and we obviously need specific skills. So it would be nice, really nice, to have like an engineering skills, but collaboration would be nice because giving the feedback, and then I think that kind of grows the industry together as well.
Yeah,
That
maybe you two
communicate.
can grow together because he
Yes.
already has the software doing that. See, so
Exactly.
we've had actually, I mean, in these most of the panels we have, the panelists didn't know each other before sitting here together on stage, and it would not be the first case during this conference that we had panelists sitting together over lunch or later on for a drink or whatever, and it looks like there are some very good and great connections and maybe new business, even up here on stage, and I hope you had that during the conference as well. My look on the watch tells me that unfortunately this two-day conference, not only our session but the entire conference is coming to an end or has already come to an end. So first of all, please give a big hand to Risa and Boris. Thank you for coming here for our last session.
Thank you.
And dear audience, thank you for staying through the last session, and I hope you had a magnificent 2 days, mostly hopefully on our Beyond Entertainment stage, and maybe also some great input from the entertainment stage and all the things happening around MediaTech Hub conference this November. I hope that we will see you all again next November because, I mean, yeah, we'll of course do this again. Maybe they'll ask me again to sit on this chair next year, who knows. I always enjoy that very much as well with great guests, a great team. Thank you, Alina, for being our stage manager here. And thank you, Andrea, also for helping organize it from the MediaTech Hub management. A big hand to those two. And all the guys that you never see up there, yeah, with the sound and the lights and everything. Without you, we could not have done this conference as well. So thank you for helping us out as well.